Good morning. It is the AM 1150 Garden Show, and it's a beautiful Saturday morning here. Coming into summer, it's just about the longest day, another few days, and it'll be the longest day of the year. So
yeah, that's just, I look forward to it. It's a little weird in the morning when the light, shines in the window, and then you're thinking, well, is it time to get up? And you look at your clock, and it's 10 after 4.
Yeah, I know. But, and sometimes getting up that early is kind of cool. When you think about it, how many hours of beautiful sunshine and coolness and beautiful working weather, how many hours do we waste by sleeping past that sunrise? I mean, getting up at sunrise at this time of year and getting to bed a little bit earlier really makes a lot of sense. It really does. Unless you're a night owl, unless you're a party animal. But that morning is fabulous, Anyway, we talk. We're gonna do the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
Well, my tip of the week is a long one, Ken. I'm sorry, it's a long one. Think about how much pleasure plants can provide. The diversity alone will blow your mind, much less the biology and how they exist and thrive. No pulse, no body temperature, no muscles, and no respiratory system, at least not like animals. The plant kingdom is simply amazing. That's my tip of the week.
Wow.
Long tip.
Yeah.
Plant of the week is the Heliopsis Lorraine Sunshine.
There you go.
I stumbled on that plant. Deer don't like it because there's deer all over the place and they don't touch it.
Yeah.
It's I just don't know how long it blooms. Do you know how long it blooms?
Long.
It's a long
Very
bloomer.
long bloomer.
And even if it wasn't blooming, it's got this gorgeous variegated foliage.
Yeah, it's a very unusual
good plant.
Yeah,
think of it in mass plantings, Ken, and a mass perennial bed.
Yep, and it's well behaved.
Yep. Heliopsis Lorraine Sunshine.
You betcha. Alrighty, I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that always manage your plants. Always stay in control of your garden. What happens is that plants want to run around, they want to take over the garden, and they just grow and spread. And as a gardener, what we do is we keep the plants away from each other. We kind of try to keep them so that they have their own little space and they maintain their identity. When plants all blend together, they sometimes just become a mass of growth, and again, they lose their texture or their beautiful foliage, or all you can see is a few flowers. So that's what we do in gardening, is we try to keep the plants sort of to themselves, and it just keeps it actually makes it a little easier to garden, actually. All right, and my plant of the week this week is the Aruncus dioecious, which is the goat's beard, and just one of my favorite plants. Always has been one of my favorites, and it actually is native to North America. It's actually native all over the place, but it's just a cool plant, and it's non-invasive, easy to grow. Grows in almost any conditions, and right now is in full bloom with huge white tassels all over the plant. And I really love it. I put a picture of it on Plant of the Week on growercoach.com. Click on the garden tips and Plant of the Week, and there you go. You can see pictures of Aruncus. It's a beauty. There you go. That's my tips and plants.
Could have been mine, Ken, because we got a beauty right beside our little patio out back.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a gorgeous plant. And, one of the blossoms don't last a long, long time. But when they're so white.
Yep.
And they have such a nice, we were using them in floral arrangements.
Yeah.
Like as a filler in the floral arrangement with roses and then Aruncus. And,
yeah, it's a cool plant. It's just something that it'll grow in the sun, it'll grow in shade, it'll grow dry, it'll grow wet. It'll grow anywhere. And you know where I saw it in the wild, one of the first places I saw it was way up north, up by Terrace up there when I was out fishing, and I saw this plant growing, and I thought, that looks like Aruncus, And then, sure enough, that's what it was. And then since then, I've seen it in all different climates all over BC.
Goat's beard.
Yeah.
Interesting, Ken, when I called you and sent you a picture of this Heliopsis, and I thought it was a Coreopsis. The way the petals on the flower were kind of jagged, and I thought, gee, it looks like a Coreopsis. And Ken just, no, it's a Heliopsis Lorraine Sunshine, just like that. I thought, boy, oh boy.
I remember when it was introduced, because we used to propagate perennials, right? And when that was sort of new and coming out, and we had to get cuttings, it was very difficult at first. It wasn't a stable plant. The cuttings were difficult to root. It just doesn't have as much chlorophyll in it because of the variegation, I guess. Right. And it was slow, and it wasn't an easy plant to grow from a propagator standpoint. But now they've got it all figured out now, and the strain is now solidified. And wow, it's a cool plant, and it's much shorter than the other Heliopsis, which is generally they're about 4 to 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is more in that 2 foot sort of range. Yeah, it's good.
Ken, you and I are both musicians. We've played in bands over the years, and I played in all sorts of different bands. And when you play in a band and travel around up and down the valley, even on an amateur level that we were, you get to know each other quite well. You get to know your bandmates, and I got to tell you, we just lost one of my very close friends and bandmate, Don Ross, a piano player, saxophone player, and he played with us in the Brian Todd Quintet, and he was a staple. We had so much fun. We had so many laughs, not just at the gigs, but on the way home and back. The stories he would tell and we would tell each other were just incredible. We would laugh, belly laugh all the way home. And one of the things that Don always reminded me of, because on his retirement when he turned 65 in 1985, they had a retirement party for him, and it was and I walked in. I had we decided the band would wear tuxes that day. So I wore my tux, but I didn't have any black shoes, so I put my running shoes on, thinking nobody would notice. And of course, Don saw these running shoes, and he got such a kick out of that. He always reminded, even later years, more recently, when we'd run into each other, and he'd say, "Oh, I'll never forget you walking in with that tux with your running shoes on." Don.
That is funny.
Don,
but hey, that works. As a drummer, you need to have your feet flexible, and
yeah, that's right.
You got to have your pedals going, so you need those sneakers.
Yeah, at least I was wearing shoes. But Don, man, I just hope he is feeling restful or whatever you do when you pass on, because he was a gentleman, a lovely man, and it's very sad to see Don Ross go. Mm-hmm. And there you go. So that's what happens when in life, you start losing people, especially when you get up to my age, Ken. You start losing people, and that's just the way life is. So you got to every day. That's why you got to get tickets for Thursday night's Strange Movies reunion.
Yeah, I know.
12 tickets left.
Yes,
of course.
And it's funny, every time. We'll talk about after this show. We always
chat back and forth. But so that's what I'm saying. Here's a band. This band that we're playing with on Thursday and Friday night, coming up in July 4th and 5th. Mm-hmm. What a special thing that is. We started this band in 1966, Ken. Mm-hmm. And the original four guys, the original Strange Movies blues band, we had other guys in it before we changed to a blues band, but the original blues band was the Strange Movies blues band, and it was Jim Wilson, Don, me, and Bill Campbell, and Jerry DeHaze. And that's the original four. Mm. And, we've never come into these reunions really prepared. We really don't have to prepare, as you know. You just, But this time, we are prepared. Like every Tuesday night, Jim and Jerry and I get together and we're working tunes out and we're making things sharp, so we're not going to be fiddle farting around on stage trying to remember which tune to play and whatnot. Yep. We're going to have, good continuity. After all, Strange Movies used to play in battles of the bands down in the Kootenays, like in Kimberley Snowfest. We played. Yep. So we got all these trophies and whatnot from the Battle of the Band. One of the trophies was best continuity. In other words, Strange Movies put together a series, I forget a medley of songs.
Oh.
And we just tied them into each other. So we played our whole set for that Battle of the Bands, tied them into each other. So we got the best continuity trophy. we got other trophies too. But anyway, too much fun. Cool. We're having we're going to have lots of fun. Bill's coming in on Thursday. We play Thursday night, so he's not going to be able to rehearse. He doesn't have to rehearse.
He plays all.
Nor does Jim. Jim doesn't have to rehearse either. But he's teaching us parts, and he's teaching Jerry some of the bass parts, and we're really having fun. It's a good thing.
Yep, that's cool. Very cool.
250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I. Yeah, this is a garden show. It's not a band show. It's not whatever. It's a garden show. And if you've got any gardening questions, you can give us a call. We're going to take that first short break here and give you time to go to your phones and dial that number, 250-862-2525. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. We are back with you, and I have an announcement to make, Ken.
Okay.
Well, I have one little Madeira geranium seedling has sprouted.
Yeah. Wow.
I am so excited. I bought these seeds because when we were in Holland, I was walking. We were walking past we didn't walk past. We went right in to a chocolate factory, and outside the chocolate factory, the gentleman who owned it had a whole whack of beautiful, unique plants. And this one plant I looked at, I couldn't believe it. It was just 3.5 feet tall, and had this crown of flowers on the top. And I didn't recognize it. I thought, what the heck is that? And I said to the gentleman, I said, what is that plant? And he says, oh, it's a geranium. I said, a geranium? And then I looked and I said, of course it's a geranium. Mm-hmm. The flowers are geranium-like, and the
foliage is geranium.
Yeah. And
it's
the
kind of
foliage,
more
everything.
like cut like.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me of Geranium robertanium, which is a little weed that we have.
Yeah.
It's all over Canada, but
yeah.
It looks just like it, but this is like a gigantic form of it. Pretty
and
cool.
I guess, anyway, so I bought some seeds. Not there, but when I got home, I just had to have some. So I looked on the internet, and I found a place in England, and only cost me $10-12 by the time I got 10 seeds, so they're $1 a seed. But still, I mean, all the way from England, I thought that was pretty darn good service, and I got them, and I got one to germinate so far. So we'll see what happens. We're going to go to the phone lines. Thank you, Barbara, for calling in. We appreciate your call.
Hi, Dawn. Just wanted to give everybody a reminder about the Peachland Rose Show.
Oh, yeah.
Today in Peachland. People are down there right now setting up all their wonderful blooms and bringing the blooms in from the garden. And the show opens to the public at 11 o'clock and will be open until 4.
Wonderful. And it's organized by the Peachland Sowers and Growers Society.
That's right.
Yes. It's great. Tell us a little bit about that organization, Peachland Sowers and Growers.
Well, it's been in existence for quite a long time, but in the last 9 years, it has devoted itself exclusively to the Peachland Rose Show. Mm-hmm. So that's their big event for the year.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's going to be a good one. As Ed Sullivan said, a really big shoe. Yeah.
I certainly hope so. There are going to be 2 or 3 workshops throughout the day.
Okay.
As well, and I believe that Rick Sauter, who's been doing so much work down at the Summerland Gardens, he's doing one of the workshops.
Now, is there still time for people who want to enter some roses, blooms?
Well, they've got about 35 minutes.
35 minutes. Well, there you go. Well, if you're in your car right now and you got your roses in your hand, you better get stepping on it.
Other than that, we hope to see people during the day.
Come to see the show. I just love flower shows. I just think they're fabulous because people put so much effort into them, and the flowers are generally top drawer, and it's just fun to see. It's always fun too to see who wins. You see who's got the blue ribbon, who's got. It's always fun, and you wonder, okay, what were the judges thinking there? And they have their reasons because it's very cool. It's a cool thing to do. I was a judge actually at the Armstrong Fair once, and it's quite problematic being a flower judge. I'll tell you, I don't have thick enough skin to be a flower judge, but it.
Okay, Don, thanks. Well, I'm on my way down to Peachland.
Well, you better get going. You got 35 minutes to get there.
Exactly.
Okay.
All
Take care, Barbara.
A lot. Talk to you later.
Bye bye.
And we'll keep mentioning that because that is a great event. And I'm just going to go over that again. It's the annual event organized by the Peachland Sowers and Growers Society, featuring several hundred roses in horticultural exhibits and displays in vases, bowls, and baskets. So you should come and see this spectacular rose show, the only rose show held in BC outside of the Lower Mainland. This year's show will be held Saturday, June the 15th. That's today at the 50 Plus Center. That's 4th Avenue and Beach in Peachland. You can't miss it because you're on Beach, the main street there on Beach, and get to 4th Avenue in that corner there, and that's where the show is. The show's open to the public from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., so be there or be square. And that means we're going to go right. That ding means there's another call coming in, and it's Mark. Good morning, Mark.
Good day, gents. Just wondering, other than boiling water, what would knock out English ivy?
Oh, English ivy?
Yeah, it's pretty nasty, almost unkillable.
It
type.
can get out of hand. Where have you got it?
Well, it's growing up on a rock face, and it could get into the forest floor, and I think it would go, just keep going once it gets there.
Yeah, in areas that aren't as dry as us, the English ivy is a real invasive thing. It's crawling up trees all over down in Washington State and that. In fact, I don't even think nurseries are allowed to sell it there.
No.
But I don't think it's, however, if it's attached to an area that is getting water, and but it's not going to invade our forests like it does down the coast.
No.
Would you say that, Ken? It's not as big an issue.
It sure is a massive, and it gets more aggressive as it gets bigger.
I mean, it might be doing some good on the rock face. I mean, you can probably chemically get rid of it. Maybe get a weed control people in to use some Roundup, or if that kind of thing would kill it.
Roundup would probably do.
Roundup would kill it, and you could just scrape the bark of the ivy, scrape it, and then paint onto that. That's all it needs. It's just to get into the system of the ivy, and that'll do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I've never seen English ivy as. I'll tell you one thing that is bad around here is that darn Euphorbia mercanoides.
Yes.
That burro's tail.
It spreads. There's actually lots of invasive plants. Even a Virginia creeper can be quite invasive, and it just survives anywhere. And I'm often surprised to see it, it's still being used and still being planted in areas because it survives anything. But it's got so many issues, just with all the leafhopper issues, and then it seeds.
But Boston ivy is a good alternative to that, isn't it? Boston ivy is a little better.
Yeah, a little bit better.
I love that Boston ivy. It's going up that wall on is it not Queensway, but north end of town there. That side street.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it is beautiful. I love the Boston ivy. It's very closely related.
Sticks flat.
Yeah, for sure. It's just with the regular Virginia creeper, that one it seeds so much, and then every seed grows. And like I have it at my place, and I'm constantly just hacking, trying to keep it back. But it just seems to sneak in everywhere. And
spreads around
up a tree right to the
That's
top
the problem.
of the tree.
Yeah, Boston ivy does not do that.
Yeah,
it doesn't do that. Boston ivy is Parthenocissus tricuspidata, and Virginia creeper is Parthenocissus quinquefolia.
Yep.
The Virginia creeper, like you say, has a lot of issues. I don't know why they still sell it.
Yeah, it's a pretty aggressive plant, but it's being used. I even see it being planted literally. You can go out anywhere and see people using it all over the place.
What about for a vine, Ken? What about hops?
Well, they're really highly prone to mites, and leafhoppers too. But spider mites are the bad one, and so I think if you're a hop grower, you grow it for a reason. They're quite pretty. They have the quite beautiful the flowers. The hops themselves are quite beautiful, and they're super easy to grow. They grow like a weed almost. But,
I noticed there's some hops being grown on the highway now.
Yeah.
Which is years ago. If you drove through Kamloops, acres and acres, mile after mile, you'd be driving by hop farms.
Yeah, and same actually down in Chilliwack. Remember they used to have them right along the highway?
Yes. Yeah.
But I know there's still lots of hops being grown. But maybe they're just not close to highways anymore.
Maybe not.
Just the one here. But it's a pretty cool thing. And, with now, with the way the microbrewery thing has gone, is the hops. Wow, there are so many different varieties of hops now, and each one has a specific flavor, and they're growing, and I'm sure they're hybridizing them and trying to come up with new flavors. And
well, I enjoy really a hoppy beer. I do like the taste of hops, and there's a beer out there called Hophead.
Yep, I know.
Hophead beer, and that's real hoppy.
Very hoppy.
It's very tasty.
Yeah.
Okay, well, 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We're having a good time. It's a beautiful day. Gardens are just thriving right now. My onions are just fat, and my garlic and my beans are up 1.5 feet, 2 feet almost. I've been taking carrots and radishes out of my garden. I'm really enjoying that. And I haven't used any pesticides, and I haven't used any cover on my onions, so far. touch wood, I have had no invasive maggots or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I found was that I had years where it was so bad that I didn't get any onions come through to fruition because of all the maggots in them. But then the very next year was not bad, and the next year there was like none, and then the next year there was a bit, and then the next year it was bad again. So it seems to go in that cycle. But now I have a really nice cover, thanks to you, to cover my onions, and they're just loving that.
Yeah, they like it.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing, I think, is, and I'm doing a talk next week for a group, and it's my good, the bad, and the bugly talk.
Yep.
And, I started that whole talk back in about 2004, 2005. That's when I started putting it together. As you know, every year when you go to use it, you revamp it and add to it, and put more pictures in, or just change, and changing your whole philosophy and changing. I talk about what's available on the market to control insects and diseases, and of course, every year they're removing more and more. Malathion gone now. All sorts of things have gone. The traditional organophosphates and all that are gone, and so a lot of us, not necessarily me, but a lot of people were kind of going, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We won't be able to grow anything. Well, getting back to sort of a balance, a natural, and it sounds kind of sloppy here, but getting that natural balance going in the yard where you've got your things, and you taught me that back in the 80s. Well, I don't want to spray the whole nursery because all we want to do is control this little pocket of aphids here or something, and
all the beneficials.
We don't always. There's all these beneficials.
Yeah,
there are so many beneficials. 99% of things that move in your garden are either beneficial or a non-item that doesn't. They're no problem at all. They're the bug.
They're just bugs.
They're the buglies.
Yeah,
and. There's the good, and those are the beneficials. Those are the ones that are really out there working hard for us. And then there's the bad ones. There are some bad ones, but, there are ways to keep those bad ones under control.
And the bad one list has shrunk.
Oh, sure.
Because things that we used to think were really bad are maybe not so bad, or the things that you just can't do anything about anyway. But now what I consider as the worst bugs is really the borer insects, because you really can't do anything about them. It's all about culture and keeping those plants from being stressed out. So if you're growing plants that are not stressed, then they don't tend to develop the borers and all the issues that they can.
They'll
develop.
attack the stressed out plants.
Oh yeah, well they can smell them, right?
Yep.
And there you go.
Going to have to take another short break. We do invite your calls, 250-862-2525, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. We are back with you, and what a beautiful day it is today. And it is, we keep saying this, but it is so beautiful early in the morning. The greenhouse smells just perfect when I come out in the morning just to check things out and see what babies have popped up and whatnot. And the lawn, everything looks good. Oh, I did repair my burned lawn, Ken, last year. One handy thing for people to do. Here's a handy thing for you to do. This is a tip. If a landscaper or a friend or whatever has a little extra turf left over, take a little piece of your garden, lay the turf down and grow it into a little patch, right? And if you get a burn spot or a dog spot or this spot or that spot on the lawn or something going on, you had to dig out some weeds and there was a bare spot, just take a piece of that turf.
Cut it out.
Yep.
Pop it in that hole. Just got to water it 3 times a day at least right now. That's the thing in this heat is survivability by keeping it moist.
Yeah.
Keeping it moist. And one thing you can do too
you hand
that's
water
helpful.
That area.
Yeah, you give it a good soak, but put a little bit of burlap over it, right? And the burlap helps to hold the moisture and keeps the hot sun off. Acts like a little bit of sunscreen.
Yeah.
And it really helps to get that grass established.
You bet. We're going to go to the phone lines, and Addie is on the line. Good morning, Addie.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're well.
Good, thanks.
Good. I have a problem with one of my canna lilies. It's something is eating holes in the leaves, and I can't find anything anywhere.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm thinking slugs.
Well, it depends.
Slugs?
Are you seeing it right in the central coil, like where the leaves are uncoiling, or is it on the sides?
It started out by eating the edges, and now it's gone into the middle of some of the leaves. A couple of the older leaves. It hasn't gotten into the younger leaves yet, so I couldn't find any slugs anywhere.
Is it making like a round hole right in the middle of the leaf?
Round hole, yeah. There's round holes.
Yeah.
But then it's also eating the edge of the leaves.
Yeah. There's a couple things. As Don was saying, the slugs are sometimes an issue, but you got to watch the little silvery trails that you would see.
Yeah,
that would be an identifiable trait for slugs. And slugs have rasping mouth parts, so they don't usually cut like a hole, but they kind of work their way through a leaf in layers. But there's an armyworm that is right now they're attacking all over up in north part of the valley, north of Vernon. There's literally like an ocean of armyworms that are moving across the area, and they're just consuming everything in their path. But here, we usually get like inside. It's usually right down the center of your canna is where, or in the crotches of the leaves is where these worms will hide in the daytime, and then they'll come out at night, and then
I've looked for them at night, and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, really tough to see. But what I found is that they would get right down the center, like when the leaves are all curled, and then they would live down inside the center there, and then they would eat through, like 3 layers, and then as the leaf comes out, it's got this little row of
like making a snowflake.
Yeah, like
paper snowflake.
Yeah, and so these, that's just one of those things. The climbing cutworm is another one.
So how do I get rid of them, or what do I do? It's just on the one.
Yeah, you have to look at these things as something that, is it really messing my plant enjoyment up of this plant, or is it more of a conversation piece? Oh, look at the holes. Mm-hmm. Like if it's killing the plant, that's one thing. But if it's just having a meal and making a few holes in the leaves, it's part of gardening, and we sort of accept a little bit of that now. If it's ravaging, and if these armyworms come down and your whole cannas get chomped on and eaten up, and they look all ratty, then that's an issue. But the way it is right now, Addie, I wouldn't worry too much. I don't think you're going to see an ongoing thing. It was probably an event, and that makes sense. What Ken said, them eating while it's all wrapped up still, and then when the leaf opens, there's the hole. And by the time the leaf opens and you see the holes, Mr. Worm has gone.
Yeah,
they had the party. And
they had the party, and they've moved on.
Yeah. And remember that things like that BT product that works on caterpillars can be sprayed. Like if needed, right down inside the inside the leaf and on the leaves. And then if there is still one around, if he consumes that, it's amazing how fast it works. Yep. Within about literally 24 hours, they start to die.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm not gonna lose sleep over it.
Nope.
The other thing is, I got 2 Morden roses that I planted in the center of my wine barrels.
Yes.
But something is just eating off the roses as they come up. Just the rosebud the rose is gone. Nothing else. They leave that stem that the rose is on.
You got
so what's
deer?
Doing that?
Have you got deer around?
Well, wouldn't they eat the whole plant?
No, they just they like the buds.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah.
Buds are number one. Unless they get really hungry, then they'll work their way down.
Okay, so there's nothing I can do.
Some people do use there's a couple of deer repellent products on the market, and they specific roses and plants that they really want to protect. They'll spray once every 2 or 3 days. They'll give them a shot.
Bobex
is one.
I heard HP sauce kind of makes them nervous.
HP sauce.
Do you spray it right on the plant, or just around the container, or what?
Right on the plant.
And it's not going to harm the plant at all.
It doesn't harm the plant. No.
I've got one that's made by Ortho. Animal Be Gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could work.
I think that's a granular thing, almost like
No, it just is a spray.
Oh, it's a spray.
Spray.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a new one.
Ortho
That's new.
Animal Be Gone Max.
Well, spray some on Bill.
See if he takes off.
He's in bad enough shape. We don't need anything more than that.
No, I know.
John, do I have to fertilize my grapes?
Grape? A little bit of food is certainly not going to hurt it. Just a watering of 20 every once in a while, that's probably all you need to do.
Once every couple of weeks or so?
Oh, yeah. Well, even less than that. I mean, the grapes are pretty amazing. I never feed my grapes, and I've got them, but mind you, they're by the lawn, and I do put some fertilizer on the lawn, so they're getting that
benefit from that.
Yeah. So is 30-15 be as good or not?
Just as fine. Yep, just fine.
Yep.
Super. Thank you very much, guys. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thanks, Addie.
Hey, thanks, Addie. Take care.
Great to hear from you as always, Addie. I want to mention here, Don Ramponi. This is if you want further information, you want to phone Don Ramponi, 250-861-6643. The Kelowna Canadian Italian Club is hosting its third Italian Heritage Evening at 7 p.m. on Friday, June the 21st. That's next Friday. This coming Friday. A week yesterday. Whatever. At the KCIC Hall at 770 Lawrence Avenue, 770 Lawrence Avenue. KCIC Hall, 770 Lawrence. Where is that? Trying to think of where
Google
that would
Maps.
be. Yeah, well, I'm just trying to think of what hall that would be. I wonder if it's it might be the old Institute, what they call the Institute Hall.
Oh.
Anyway, that Miss Pratton used to teach dancing there, years ago. Included in this event will be the grand opening of our Italian language library, history of the first Italian Community Association from the 1930s, and the presentation of an updated 1938 Italian picnic photograph. Presentation of an updated 1938 Italian picnic photograph. That's very cool. We've got a lot of Italian heritage here. I remember a gentleman came to do a talk. He's a very, very world-renowned arborist, and he gave a talk at one of our conferences here, and he's from Italy, and I was explaining to him our Italian heritage, back right through to the Capozis and the Ramponis and the Casorsos and all sorts of Italian families here. So that'd be a good one. That's at 7 p.m. next Friday, 21st, at the KCIC Hall, 770 Lawrence Avenue. And on that note, we're going to take a short break, and we will be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, we got a few minutes left before the 9 o'clock break, and so we invite your calls, 250-862-2525. Lots going on right now. Ken, I noticed the Greenery has their annual sales starting now. They're starting to reduce the prices of their plants.
Yeah.
And, everybody's all excited about that. That's pretty cool. And then they're done for the year at the end of June.
End of June.
So if you're wanting to get some greenery plants, that's the time to get it pretty quick now. So the season for the garden centers and whatnot is kind of winding down to a degree, but don't forget, Art Knapp's, Byland's, Dogwood, Rick's, all sorts of garden centers don't close down like the Greenery does. And they are prepared to help you through the summer with your, because really, don't throw in the trowel, as they say.
Yeah.
Don't throw in the trowel. You want to keep going.
Yeah, you can garden year round.
Yep.
If you're around to take care of the plants, you bet you're good to go.
Absolutely. Linda, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Ken and Dawn. I have a question in regards to goutsweed and how to get rid of it. We've tried pulling it, and it comes back, and we tried pulling it again, it comes back. This year, I tried the Roundup on it twice. And just as a control, I did some chickweed, and the chickweed died, and the goutsweed is
really
as green as ever.
Megapodium. Wow.
I was wondering if there was some other thing I could use.
Ken's got something coming on, right? He's coming on, but I just wanted to say, is it in a hot, sunny spot?
No.
No. I was going to say the old trick of putting your poly over the weed bed in the heat of sun. It really, really will cook those weeds.
Yeah. But the problem is, though, it's in amongst my hostas and other plants that I want to keep, and it is slowly, and ferns. It's sort of in a shade garden, and it's just...
Well, it's it's a tough job to do. I've done it before where I've dug it out, and this is what I did was because I had mixed plants, exactly what you're talking about, hostas, other shade plants. I had some astrantias in there, which were really beautiful. But dug them all out, dug it out literally a shovel at a time, and pulled it all out, and I took all the plants out that I wanted and took all the soil off, and I bare rooted them. And then I went through all the soil very carefully, almost like through a screen, took out all the roots, because these things, they form these little ball, like it's like a little cluster of roots that all come from a central spot, and those are the bits that really grow. And so if you can get every one of those out, that's the first step. Then we put everything back, and then when they would shoot up, because they would shoot up from around the edges because there was a sidewalk there, and when they would shoot up, then we would give them a little shot with the Roundup in those days anyway. But the thing with that is just remember that what makes Roundup effective on this plant is that it needs to be very clean water, ideally distilled water to mix it with, and then applications following exactly the right conditions, and make sure you got enough foliage to hit the plant to make sure you're getting enough in there to kill the root.
A spreader sticker sometimes works well too,
Yeah. So there you go. But it's a tough one, and it's just they call it goat weed, and there's a reason for that.
Well, people have come into the garden center, when we had the garden center, and it'd be in the perennial section. Why do you sell that stuff? Yeah, because
it has its place.
Garden centers still sell it.
But I'll tell you, like when we used to have a perennial nursery where we sold literally 500,000 plants a year, and our biggest selling plant of all time was goatweed. We sold more of that than anything. We would sell 1,000 flats of it a year.
With the Roundup, should I make it maybe a stronger solution?
No,
that doesn't really help.
No.
No.
But it's this whole thing with clean water, right? You have to use distilled water, so it's clean.
Distilled water.
Mixed at the 6 tablespoons per gallon or whatever the recommended rate is. And then you have to apply it very carefully so you're not applying it on your other plants.
Right.
And then on a little bit on every leaf is ideal. And, then you have to wait about 2 weeks for it to take effect.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have to move forward. We've got a couple more callers we've got to get before the break here, so I appreciate your call.
Yeah.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Good luck.
Right on now. The next person is Hildegard. Morning, Hildegard.
Good morning.
Got a couple of minutes here.
Go ahead.
So we've got about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Left in the show here. So, what is your question?
I've got the zucchini. They have grown very nicely, but they started setting fruit right away. And fruit is now about as long as a finger, and it doesn't grow any bigger. It's starting to shrivel up.
Yeah, some of those first ones will fall off. The first few, you'll see them just drop off, and then the later ones, once the plant gets well established, it'll grow those more steadily. But watch for calcium deficiency. That's number one. So you need to use food-grade calcium as a spray over the entire plant, and that's available at local garden centers. Don, maybe you can add more. Yeah,
well, just calcium is one of the things that's lacking there, Hildegard, and you've got your radio turned up on the background. We're getting quite a bit of an echo there. So that's what we would recommend is calcium on those things. They get the same blossom end rot that tomatoes and peppers get. Okay? Yeah, you can go into Bylands. I think Bylands have the calcium, food-grade calcium there in little bags.
Thank you
so
much.
You're very welcome.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
You betcha. Bye-bye now. And we've got Mark on line one.
Thank you. It's Mark again. Don, did I hear you right in saying there was an arborist giving a talk?
An arborist? No. I was just saying that a few years ago, a gentleman from Italy was an arborist, and he was giving a talk on.
It's happened.
Yeah, it's happened already. Yeah, you bet. Okay, Mark.
All right.
Right on.
Okay, thank you.
You betcha. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're getting very close to quitting time. Well, not quitting time, break time.
Yeah.
It's just break time.
It's
a break time. We're going to take a short break here coming up, and we're going to do the news and everything, and Ken and I are going to, just have a chat, as we always do.
Let's talk gardening.
We're going to talk gardening. As soon as we go off the air, Ken and I are going to talk gardening. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Okie dokie, we're back with you on a sunny day with clouds, very few clouds. Those are serious clouds up there, Ken. Serious clouds. Anyway, we've got, we're going to the phone lines right now, and we have Edwin on the line. Good morning, Edwin.
Good morning. I have a quick question for you guys. Lettuce. Is it, what do you recommend? Sorry about the beeping if you hear it. Is it better to cut the lettuce and leave a couple inches out of the dirt and let it regrow, or rip it out and replant?
Talking leaf lettuce or head lettuce?
What's like romaine and
leaf type lettuce. Yeah, you cut them down. I mean, I keep harvesting the lettuce maybe down 3 inches or so, Ken?
Yeah, 2 to 3 inches.
And they keep growing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's quicker? Will they regrow faster than replanting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I kept ripping them out, and that was the end of it. So just leave 2 or 3 inches, and it'll regrow and keep going all summer.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
And the other thing is try different varieties as well, because there's some varieties that really respond well to that treatment, and other varieties that don't respond as well. So, like, just having, like, romaine, you could try that and see how it does. But if it doesn't work well with romaine, then try some other types. And
okay.
Yeah, I grow in the greenhouse a leaf lettuce. One's called Red Sails, and the other one I can't remember is a green one. And I just keep cutting that back, and it just keeps growing and cutting back, growing and growing and growing. It's amazing.
And you don't get the head on it, like with all the seeds and all that crap.
No, as a matter of fact, that prevents that, from bolting, as they say.
Yeah. And remember that lettuce
I've only got romaine and like butter crunch or leaf lettuce or something, so I've only got two types in there that I eat. So I'll give it a whirl then.
Yeah,
for sure. Remember that lettuce is a cold crop, so it likes to get started way back in March and grow until this point, and then actually we're moving into a little bit cooler weather in the next 2 weeks, so that's ideal for lettuce production. So your timing should be right on the money if you can.
How long do you think it takes to grow to reharvest again? Like a month or?
Yeah, it should be about 4 weeks or so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try that then.
Sure.
Yeah.
You bet.
Thanks, guys.
And put some
gurus.
Yeah, put some more seed in too. Keep adding that. Although this is a hot time of the year to be putting lettuce seed in, might want to put it in some more seed, say mid-August or something, as we start coming into the cool fall weather.
Okay.
There
you
go.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Thanks for the
Thank
call.
you.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. And I've lost my connection here. So Dennis, good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, guys. How are you today?
We're well.
Good,
We're well.
thanks. Yep.
I've got a question for you. I always put sweet Spanish onions in my garden. Last year, I had the worst crop I've ever had. Even the ones that looked good when I took them out, they rotted pretty quick, even though I went through the drying process like I normally do. So this year, just out of curiosity, I decided to plant them just slightly deeper than recommended and slightly further apart than recommended, and everything's looking nice and healthy. But I'm just wondering, do you think I'm going to have a problem because of what I've done?
Well, you have to watch.
There's no sign of the onion coming through the surface of the soil yet, but the stems are looking strong and healthy.
Yeah. The thing to note is that if you ever have that center rot disease, like I've had rotting disease in my onions, and once I had that in that one area, I couldn't replant there for probably, I don't know. I've never replanted onions back there because every time I put them back in that same area, I get them.
Yeah, I never put anything in the same place twice, so they're in a different part of the garden anyway.
Okay.
So
that's good. Yeah, so just as a heads up, there is the rotting disease that affects them, and it affects it inside. And like you say, sometimes they harvest nicely, and then they just don't last. They sort of rot from the inside out.
But what I've done with planting them slightly deeper and wider won't affect them in any way, you don't think?
I think it'll be something you just try out and see how it goes. Gardening is a trial and error thing.
Yeah, well, this was a big trial after the disaster last year. I never even thought about diseases. I just thought maybe I'd screwed up with something,
Yeah, well, I just had that problem. I had some beautiful onions, and then they started to rot in that one spot. And then I would skip the year, rotate, and then I came back, and I wonder if that disease is still there, and it was still there 2 years later, and then all those onions rotted, and it was just not good. So then I've moved to a completely different area of the garden, and I'm having way better success.
Even though you were putting compost and things like that in, it still was there?
I put them into soil that is not really my best soil. It's just soil. And it had some leaves that were turned into it, so it's got some decomposing leaves, but that's it. And then I'm just adding just a very small amount of fertilizer.
Okie dokie. Yeah. I shall see how they go. I'll let you know.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you, Dennis.
Good luck.
Bye.
Appreciate the call. Yes, and onions. I'm looking forward to my big Elsa Craig onions.
Yeah,
They're coming on like gangbusters, and
I planted them about, 8
far enough apart to
or
anticipate.
I'm anticipating the football size.
Well, and if you plant them closer together, you can take every second one out as they get to be a edible size. Because onions, they don't ripen; they're just onions,
yeah,
right?
They're just onions.
Yeah. Now, getting them to be big, you can enter them in a contest, of course.
Yeah.
The size of a football. No, better yet, a basketball because of the
that would be
Toronto
awesome.
Raptors. Yeah. Just like a basketball.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Right now, they're about the size of a pea, so
yeah,
we got a ways to go.
Okay, doke. We got Pam on the line. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I have a ornamental grass question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few. I don't know the exact name, but as I'm looking on the internet, I'm thinking maybe some kind of a reed grass. I'm not sure. I have some clumps of grass that are rather tall. Mm-hmm. I know they're the kind that you're supposed to cut just above the soil line, like a few inches above the soil line every spring, and then the new growth comes. Mm-hmm. And they grow very straight and quite tall. My question is, they're growing fine, but they're so much shorter this year than they have been the last 3 years. I'm wondering do they poop out after a while, or did I do something wrong with the trimming of them?
No.
Give me a little tutorial there.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money that they are sort of pooping out a little bit. What happens with a lot of ornamental grasses, and not with all of them, but they sort of, each year they grow. Like year 1, they do quite well. Year 2, they're just in their prime. They're beautiful. Year 3, spectacular. Year 4, well, they kind of go backwards a little bit. The base of the plant is growing in diameter, but the inside starts to die out, and they start to lose vigor. And so what we always say with grasses, not with all grasses, but a lot of these ones, like the one that you have, feather reed grass, is typical of that it will need rejuvenation about every 5 years. So if you're in year 4,
right around there.
Yeah, and then what you do is you just dig the whole thing out and put it on a tarp, and then chop it into chunks. Take the nicest, healthiest, greenest grass part and put it back. And generally you do that in the springtime or a little bit late spring when they're growing quite nicely, and you get that new growth on them. And then you can rejuvenate. And when you do dig them out, you have that opportunity to dig in some compost, to put a little bit of maybe some nutrients in there, some fertilizer of some sort, and then pop it in, and away they go. So it's a vigor. It's a vigor thing. They need to get going.
Gotcha. Now, when I know what you're saying about them dying in the middle. Mine aren't dying in the middle, but they still, I guess, must just be losing their strength. And you're right; they probably haven't seen anything new in the soil for a few years. They're working on their original soil.
Yeah, you could use some water-soluble fertilizer and just shoot it straight into the center of the plant and give it like a gallon of it, and that would usually wake it up and get it going. Yeah,
they look healthy. They're just dwarfs of what they used to be.
Yeah.
They're like 3 feet tall, not 5.5. That's what they're doing, which is kind of weird.
Yep.
Okay, I will think about that in the spring then. They'll be okay till then. Now, quick question too, asparagus beetles. I have had asparagus plants for about 4 years now. This year we had a really nice feed of asparagus spears, and then they started, something happened. Something happened in like early mid-May. and I noticed some very distinctive, pretty good size orange bugs with black spots on them on the fronds, and I thought, are you responsible for my drying up and wizening of my asparagus plants? Because the ferns are definitely not, I don't even know, maybe the plants are even dead now. Like, they look pretty lost on top. I don't know what the bottom's like.
So
Any stuff?
Well, asparagus is really, I find it very finicky. It's the one thing I find it really hard. Yeah, there is an asparagus beetle, Ken just pointed out, but it's quite, you can see it, and it does ravage the ferns. But I'll tell you, you can see it. It's because there's multiples of them. I had that in my garden a number of years ago in my asparagus. It was just loaded with these little asparagus beetles. But you'd see that if that's the case, and more often than not, you can just shake them and put them into a bowl or something and get rid of them, kill them, as they say.
Right. Can't take them.
Yeah, put them down, as they say. But it could also be, I would dig down, take one and just dig down, see what the root looks like. I mean, that's the telltale sign of whether the thing's alive or dead, is if the root is alive. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks sadder than I've ever seen it. Like when you have an asparagus, like a ornamental asparagus fern plant, and then you run your hand along the fern, and all of the fronds twinkle off because they're brown and burnt. That's what it looks like. It's like 1/3 the size. Yeah. It hasn't grown in height. And I go, something happened here. So maybe it's toast.
Yeah. Well, it could have been damaged over the winter. That February has caused a lot of problems and issues.
Yeah, I've heard that asparagus growers have been struggling with infestations this year of both the army worms that I mentioned earlier in the show and some asparagus beetle as well. So
have a close look, Pam.
It's happening.
And, as I say, one of the things you can do is just dig around, see what the root looks like.
See what it looks like, I guess. Whatever will be, will be. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your
dear. Appreciate the call.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks for calling.
And we're going back to the phone lines, are we? Yes, we are. And we have, I know who we have because I wrote it down like a good boy. We have Henry on the line. Good morning, Henry.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I have about a 12-year-old smoke tree.
Henry, I got to get you to turn your radio down. I think you got a little echo in the back
walk further away.
Just walk. Yeah, there you go, buddy. Perfect.
Okay. Yep. I have a smoke tree. It's about 12 years old, and I noticed the last couple of years branches, single branches all of a sudden dry out and don't have no leaves, and little by little, is that the end of my tree?
Well, not necessarily, but what it is there is a common disease of smoke bushes that we see here in the Okanagan Valley. And it's a verticillium wilt. It's a fungus disease, and it comes from the soil. It's soil borne, and it comes up through the roots of the plant and gets into the stems, and it lodges in the stems and then grows, and thus it blocks off the water flow to those branches.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why you'll get 2 or 3 branches die, or even half the plant die, and the other half still seems to be okay. So when those branches do die, there's nothing you can do but clip those out.
Yeah.
But what I would do is next year, as spring comes, is every spring try cutting the plant down quite low to the ground.
Yeah, but this is a tree. It's 12 years old.
Yeah, well, it might not be a tree.
Well, is it a single stem?
Yeah, I think so. Eh?
Single stem. Yeah.
So what it is with that is that even if the tree does, you can, like I say, you have to remove whatever dies. If the disease continues to spread through the tree, then the whole top will die. And if that happens, then you cut the plant right off, literally at about a 1 foot high off the ground, and let it shoot from the base, and it'll become a large bush. And then at that point, it will continue to grow. But because of the disease is still there, every year we cut them right to the ground. I have several that I manage, And every spring, I just cut them right to the ground, and they shoot up again, and they're okay.
But the tree, the trunk is about 6 inches in diameter. If I cut it down a foot from the ground, all I'll have is a stump.
Yeah. Well, they do shoot up from the root.
They do.
But just as another thing that we've mentioned in the past is that surprisingly, using some aspirin around that plant can be something to try, and you'd want to do it immediately. But just regular household. Aspirin. You just take a few, maybe, Don.
I was just going to say, Henry, to make it simple, just email me and ask for my sheet on verticillium wilt.
Oh, okay.
But it's just for listeners. Is it salicylic acid? Is that what comes from?
Yeah, it comes from the willow bark, and of course willows never get verticillium, and
they're completely immune to verticillium wilt, and that's where somebody thought, hey, that's a good idea. We should try this.
Oh, yeah.
And it worked. It seemed to work, but we I don't think we have the definitive.
We haven't got any scientific backing on that, but I've had a lot of reports back to me that Japanese maples have recovered and flushed out using the aspirin treatment. And in my sheet, I explain how to do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
So fertilizer is no.
Well, they say nitrogen, feeding it with some nitrogen, 20-20-20 or whatever, to stimulate new wood to overcome the diseased wood will sometimes help.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I will send you email.
Yeah, you bet. I'll respond.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
You bet.
It's a frustrating disease, that one.
We're going to take a short break here because we've got to catch up, but we will be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. We are, and every time I look out the window, those serious clouds just move away. We hardly got any of them now. It's just
they're not
pure
very serious
blue
now.
Sky. Not as serious as we thought, Ken.
Nope.
Phyllis, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Don, I guess I have the first question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to you 2 to 3 weeks ago about my mom's hibiscus, the dinner plate, and you said I'll bet money on by mid-June it should be showing its head.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Yeah, mine's nothing too.
Absolutely nothing.
Mine's nothing too. We should go out and have a drink.
Oh. So what are you telling me, that maybe it's just done, or wait?
Oh, my summer storm. I split it all up this year, and I left a nice big chunk in the ground. And on the ones that I split up and have given away or sold, they all grew. The one I left in the ground is not growing, but I dug down and checked. There's still life in the wood. I've got a feeling we're both going to see something happen. I know. I'm sorry I gave you that information, but that's all I can say.
And they are slow to come up. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Oh, I did. Like, it's in my mom's yard in Kelowna, and I live in Oyama, so I'm in there at least once a week because I'm kind of taking care of her yard. She's 97 years old.
Oh, so. Good for her. Good for her.
Yeah. So, and the other thing, I planted her carrots on May the 12th, and I bet they're maybe up 1 inch is all. So there's another scenario. Is it they're not giving it enough water, or them, I should say, or what could be happening with that? They should be better than that by now, right?
It could be water. I mean, we've had some dry times, but yeah, I don't know, Ken. What my carrots I planted about the same time, and I'm harvesting now.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I think it's just a conditional thing, isn't it? It's just from year to year. Sometimes things grow. If they are lacking nutrient, that can be something. Water. Whenever we water, we're flushing nutrients into the root zone. So definitely, if we're watering, literally almost daily, for watering.
Yeah.
And
see, my mom and my brother, they share the underground sprinkling system, and of course, I guess I've never really asked him how many minutes he does it, but it's like, every other day, that odd evening situation.
Yeah. Well, I dig down, see what the moisture level is down there. Could be moisture. When I say I'm harvesting carrots, They're very small carrots, but they're so tasty when they're little like that.
Yeah.
And I take them out, slice them up, and put them in a salad. It's great. Yeah. But no, I've had some germination problems this year with carrots, but the ones that have germinated are doing well. So I'm not sure. So it looks like you've had pretty good germination. It's just that they're not growing.
That's right.
Well, it could be a water issue. It could be a lack of food.
Yeah, well, this spring, early, I went and, put steer manure in her garden bed. It's raised. Turned it in really good, and then I put 2 fresh bags of soil, thinking, well, maybe, I don't know when she's done that last. So I'm expecting everything to be just robust.
I'm thinking you better check the water. A raised bed like that could dry out quite easily, and maybe the sprinklers aren't getting to it.
Okay. All right. And another question, I planted some tomatoes for her, same bed area, and there's the leaves. There's all kinds of little white spot things on them, and then the base ones are dying off. Now, what is that?
No, it could be early blight, but what you might want to do is next time you go out, if you want to, are you able to email a picture to us?
I'm not that good at that.
Not
sorry.
Good at emailing. Maybe
I can email, but I'm not good at doing the
attaching the picture.
Thing.
Yeah,
sorry.
Well, maybe maybe you can find somebody who can help you with that. But if you could get a picture, then we can identify it right away to see if it's like an actual insect or a disease of some sorts.
And the other thing too is the new growth looking okay?
No, it's basically the whole tomato plant. It's almost every leaf is.
That's
got
not a good thing. It
things
could be that early blight, could be a number of things, but we do need to see a picture of it to really get an idea of what's going on. And
make sure it's getting good deep soakings for sure, and maybe increasing water all the way around might be a good idea.
And you might want to bring me a piece of the plant. I live on Rhonda Crescent in town, so maybe I'm close to where your mom is. I'm not sure. Where's your mom live?
Well, she lives on Bach in
in
Rutland.
Yeah, Bach Road,
Yeah.
Well, we're down by Gushigan there. So, but I mean, having a look would help. But I don't like the idea of the whole plant looking like that. Quite often when there's an event, a portion of the plant lower down could be displaying, exhibiting symptoms of certain things. But when the new growth and the whole plant is going at it, then that condition is current and things are ongoing here. Again, you want to check the roots. You want to make sure. I mean, if the plant gets extremely dry at any time, then that necrosis will happen on the leaves, the portions of the leaves, and you soak it up, like really soak to the bone, and the plant recovers, but you'll still have some spots and things and yellow leaves and things like that happening because of that thing.
It was an event.
An event, yeah.
I'll see if I can maybe when I'm in there phone you or something and say, can I bring by a leaf or maybe my sister-in-law is good at this emailing thing.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Or any kid around.
Anybody under 6 will do it for you.
Exactly.
The kids nowadays, they can do anything.
So now my final question, I hope I haven't taken too much time.
We're good.
She also had planted blue spruce, like a shrub one. It was supposed to be a dwarf type, but over the years, it's just nobody's been caring for or looking at it or cutting it back or trimming. So, of course, because I'm sort of the one that's taking care of everything, I look at that thing and I think, it's right over the lawn. Yeah. So when would be a good time to give it a haircut?
Yeah, usually in the spring is the ultimate time to do it. And I know some people do shear them, but they don't really like being sheared.
No.
But selective removal of all the shoot tips back about 10 or 12 inches all the way around the entire plant early in the springtime, that usually will allow the plant to push out some new growth and fill in the gaps, and then they look just beautiful. So timing is one thing with spruces, that you try to get that done early in the season.
Yeah. Well, anything that of that nature that I have, that's what I do. Usually March, somewhere in there is when I do it.
That
should be a good timing, isn't it?
You bet, yeah.
Yeah. So I like I said to my mom, I said, unfortunately, because this thing has got right out of control, you may see some blunt cuts for a bit, right?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Then, especially if you're doing it now, then they don't, like we've gone through most of the growth phase for the plant for the year, so it's not going to, any mistakes or any of those, holes that open up, you're just going to see those all the way through until next year at this time.
And you don't want to cut back into dormant wood. Like if you can cut back far enough where there's no green showing at all, and that can be a mistake because that branch will just not grow anymore.
Oh,
They don't have these latent buds. Even cedars have more latent buds in there than spruce.
Okay, all right. So never cut back to dry wood is what you're saying,
where
right?
you're not seeing any growth, where you're not seeing any green at all. If you cut back to that, I don't think the chances of it regrowing there is minimal.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. You've been informative, and I'll keep listening to you.
Thanks for being a part of our show today.
All right.
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Now, we are going to take that short break again because we have to stay on track, and we're going to do that. We invite your calls, 250-862-2525, and we will be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. We are back, and those serious clouds are still moving away. Ken, it's going to be blue sky within spitting distance here. Eric, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I called you last week regarding my peach tree. The branches are all black and sappy.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I just emailed Don about that. I didn't know what his email address in, so I sent him pictures to you.
Yep, I just opened it up here. We're going to have a look at these pictures.
Okay.
We'll have a look. Well, could be bacterial gall or something going on there, eh, Ken? Doesn't look very good, does it?
Looks pretty rough.
Yeah. Well,
even some branches are dead too. They're getting black, and I got fruit on them, and branches green, but just that where the stem is close to it.
Yeah. Oh, this is looking rough, Eric.
Yeah.
I wouldn't deal with that tree. I would, it's a young tree. I would get it out of there and put a new one in.
Yeah,
something's going on. You had maybe it was some southwest damage on the tree over the winter or something going on. Who knows? But that tree is not going to be viable.
Yeah, because it's got. Well, I said it's almost like a Y shape. It's got a stalk and then two ends going up. If that makes any difference, I don't know.
If it was, they grow so quickly and start producing so fast that I'm suggesting you pull it out, put a new one in. Yeah.
Okay, I might.
That's what I would do. If it was my tree, I wouldn't even think of trying to do something with it.
Well, it's my brother's now, so I got to contact him. He says, "Oh no, leave it in there. It's still good."
And that's fine. It's if it was mine, it'd be gone. Okay. Thanks, Eric.
Good. Thanks a lot. Yeah,
okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
For calling.
Okay. And we're going to go back to the phone lines, and we've got Carol. Good morning, Carol.
Hello.
Good morning.
I'm calling about my raspberries. Something is attacking the new growth ends. It's like it's sort of bitten or pinched off about 3/4 through, and so it kills the end of the branches.
Ah, yes, yeah.
The new growth.
Could be a climbing cutworm is one of the things I think of too, but you have something
else. What about raspberry cane borer? The symptoms again are the tips only, or is an entire shoot going?
Mostly the tips.
Most of the tips.
Chewed through the side, and then the top falls off. So yeah, there's some little critter in there that's getting in, and he's chewing through there. So we know it's definitely some sort of an insect, and often that occurs at night. So sometimes at night, if you go out with the flashlight, once it gets dark. And you can sometimes see these little guys doing their thing. So, but very commonly you'll see the climbing cutworms getting into plants, and they climb up the stem and they get up to where the shoots are soft, and then they just start chewing into that soft stem until literally they chew right through and the thing falls off. And then they've had a good meal, and so they climb back down to the ground and go in for the night or for the day, and they do it again the next night. So, but because there's only a few, if you actually saw one, you could actually just pick it off and kill it, and you'd be done with it. Because they don't come by the hundreds; they usually just come one here, one there, sort of thing. So yeah, but
so
I would
you have
say,
to go out at night to find them, do you?
Yeah, ideally, what I've done is I go down onto the ground and I try to find where they're hiding, and you're digging around through the ground. Then all of a sudden you'll see this great big fat caterpillar thing, and then it curls up into a little round ball, like it curls up into almost like a C shape or almost into a circular shape, and they're kind of chubby, so they're plump. And so, but anyway, if you see that, that's a cutworm, and chances are if he's somewhere around the base of your plant, which is where they would be hiding for the day, is usually in the soil or under some leaves right at the base, and then you can just pick them in the daytime. But they're a little harder to find when you're scratching through the earth to get them, that's for sure. Yeah, so anyway, that's what I would suggest to do, is to check for that. But, there's a couple other caterpillars that can do a similar thing, but I would say, they all pretty much are going to be coming out at night. So that's when you get out and have a look. We have seen a lot of the cane borers this year, though. That's something I've seen quite a few
but
of.
That affects the whole cane, doesn't it?
Yeah, the entire cane withers and dies.
It attacks the base mainly,
Yeah, this is basically the tips.
Growing tips, yeah. And is it affecting, is it broad right across the board there, all the tips? Or?
No, not all of them, just one here and there throughout the...
Well, if that's the way it remains, I wouldn't call that a catastrophe or a concern. I would suggest you just keep an eye on things and watch it. But, that's where we're going with this whole thing. This talk that I'm giving next week it goes around that too. How much do we accept? Whereas years ago, we didn't accept anything that blemished our plants, period. And we would get out big guns and spray everything. And, of course, in the process, we were killing all the good guys. So, sometimes when there's a balance out there, these things don't just take off and consume your plant. You'll just have here and there going on. And it's just an interesting topic of conversation. And it gives us fodder on the radio to talk to you.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I appreciate your call.
Yeah. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Yeah, that's the way it is. And, Elaine Cameron didn't mess around, though. I mean, she gets out the DDT, the 2,4-D, everything.
She's got it all.
She's got it all. And the big one is Black Leaf 40, the nicotine sulfate.
Yeah.
She used a lot of that in her garden. And, so here we are on the 15th of May, 1952. Thank you, Grinder. Here's Elaine out in her garden, and she says she finished taking the grass from the filbert bed and hauled compost to the filbert bed as well. And then more compost to the filbert bed and a rockery. She's a big compost person. On the 17th, she's irrigating. On the 18th, she's tidying and cultivating the chives and boysenberry. Clarence cut the lawns and tidied up the delphiniums. 19th, she planted 4 juniper cuttings on the rockery top. Cut the top lawn, cut off the dead perennial tops in the border, watering and weeding. Cut the sunken lawn and edges, cut down the birch tree. They cut down the birch tree. That's a big deal. Watering the junipers, and cold and windy. It's the 20th of June, 1952, cold and windy.
Ooh.
So there you go.
There you go.
That's Elaine Cameron. Wandering through her garden. Now, coming up is the Kelowna Garden Club Flower Show.
Right.
I'm not sure the exact date, but it is coming up, and I'll be doing that tour again of the Gushigan Gardens. And I grew up in that neighborhood, so it's kind of fun to do that.
A lot of history.
Last year in the audience was Craig McCaw and John Tanner. Craig McCaw from the Poppy family, John Tanner from Vancouver were in the audience, and when I mentioned who they were, everybody cheered for them. It's kind of neat, eh?
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break here, the last break of the day, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show.